It's the country's #1 RVing radio show, sponsored by RVTravel.com, with your host, Alan Warren, the RV Wingman.
I want to talk with you for a few minutes about being open to change, being honest enough with yourself to truly be open to change. No matter who you are, you have opinions. Those opinions are formed from our experiences and those we hang out with. From those opinions, we form general conclusions, and when we conclude something, we tend to see the world through that prism. I'll give you a little example. Lisa and I, earlier this year, we went to Cuba. We had a pretty good idea of what to expect. One thing that we did not expect was that the Cuban people that we met, they were not as friendly towards Americans as people we had met from Mexico and Jamaica and Canada and the like. There seemed to be almost this universal, mistrust, if you will, of Americans by the Cuban people, at least most of the Cubans that we ran into. Instead of saying, man, what's the deal? These people are so rude. I thought, you know what? There's got to be a reason why so many people in Cuba seem to resent Americans. So it took about an hour. I did some reading, and I went back to before Fidel Castro. So that's a long, long time ago. I tried to see Americans through the eyes of the Cuban people. And when I did that, the reasons that they weren't as warm and friendly as we thought they'd be were a lot more obvious. But I would have never realized it if I wasn't open to changing my mind. So where's this monologue going? Well, I spent last week inside the belly of the beast, meaning the epicenter of the RV industry. It's a tiny little place called Elkhart, Indiana, northern Indiana, where probably 80 or more % of all the RVs are made. And I got to be honest with you, I thought that I knew what I was going to experience. I mean, I've been talking about those money-hungry manufacturers that just want to spit out as many RVs as humanly possible, not caring about quality and simply wanting to bury the consumer. If you listen to the show for very long, you know what I'm talking about. So what was it like? And what did I learn? Well, first off, the little town of Elkhart is in the northeastern part of Indiana. It's an area that's got a small town feel. Beautiful country, tall trees, green grass, old farmhouses and silos. It's a place where thousands of Amish people call home. It's a nice area, not a fancy area, not a big fancy rich area at all, but not some rundown rural has-been kind of a town. It's just really, really nice. So each year the RV industry manufacturers, they host their dealers in late September to show off their new model RVs, the ones that you and I will be seeing in the dealerships in the very near future. It is a very, very big deal. Now, there were thousands and thousands of RVs on display by all the major manufacturers. And even for yours truly, the RV Wingman, who has been to countless shows throughout the years, this Elkhart deal is very impressive. But what about those greedy, money-grubbing manufacturers? Well, I was ready for them. I was. I knew I'd get glares from the people in the industry, and they'd hate me because I'd been pushing back so hard sometimes on behalf of the consumer. So the night before the show, Lisa and I went to dinner. We met some locals, and we visited. We told them why we were there, and they were so nice. I mean, it was not what we were expecting, not at all. I'll give you a little example. This one couple we met, she was an RN at an area hospital. She told us about how generous the people are and how they help people in the community. And she said that their spirit of giving and not seeking the limelight is what makes them special. It's why people in this part of Indiana love them. She told us how this one VIP, really wealthy VIP in the RV industry, donated money to build a wing on the area hospital, and they didn't even want their name to be mentioned. How many lives that donation had saved? I thought, well, that's not what I expected. Then others told me about how the manufacturers are involved in their community with helping at-risk kids and families in need, and how they treat their employees like family. Now remember, this was the night before the show even started. And while their stories were nice, I just knew I was going to be in for a hornet's nest for the next few days. And I would decide, for myself, what these money-grubbing manufacturers are really like. Well, first off, I want to tell you, I was recognized by a couple of division managers for one major RV manufacturer. They knew who I was. So how do you think they treated me? Seriously, what would you think? They thanked me. They thanked me for what I do. I'm thinking, well, this is kind of weird. Certainly not what I expected. We visited, we talked, but not just about RVs, but, about life. I mean, about cars and golf and fishing and where to eat and football. We just talked. Now, don't fall on the floor when I tell you this, but I like these guys. I really did. They were open and candid and not defensive at all. They didn't hate me. It even seemed like they kind of liked me. So remember I mentioned our trip to Cuba a few minutes ago? When I had to look at the world through the eyes of the people who live in Cuba to see how they see us? Well, over the next few days, I began to try to see the RVing consumer through the manufacturer's eyes to try and better understand where they are coming from. What I learned is that, yes, there are issues that manufacturers have to deal with, but the good ones, you know what? The good ones that I spoke with, they deal with those issues. They build good RVs, not perfect RVs, but really good ones. They do. You can believe it or not, but they want my help, folks. Now, they don't want to advertise. I mean, that's kind of the bad news. They don't want to pay me to promote them. But the good news is that they really would like my help. And I'm thinking, well, what can I do? What can I help them with? So they want you, the consumer, to know that they get it. They do. You know what? They're busting their butts every single day to build better products. And the units I saw, they're beautiful. They are. But they also want you to know something else, that you have a responsibility to be a good consumer. Not just somebody who buys an RV, but somebody who understands that RV ownership does come with some responsibility. These people were not ugly. They weren't. They were not talking bad about you and me. They were talking about the importance of education of the RVer, of understanding their responsibilities, our responsibilities. I got to tell you, I had more than one operations person that tell me that like 75, 80% of the complaints and phone calls that they receive could have been avoided if the RVer had just done their homework, if they just read their manuals, if they had just taken care of the basic maintenance that is required. 75, 80%, I'm thinking, you know what, if it's only half that of self-inflicted wounds, as I call them, that is a problem. So the RV Wingman sees things now 1 week after the big trip to Elkhart is that finding happiness in the RV world is really a two-way street. It's not just the RV industry that needs to continue to improve their quality, but it's the consumer that needs to be better educated. It goes both ways, folks. I've often said that I believe that one day one of these manufacturers is going to step forward and take the leadership position in not just building the best RVs in the industry, but to connect with consumers, and that's you and me, and help improve our education. Because you know what? Knowledge is power. Now, going back to my opening statement about being open to change, I hope that you'll be open to what I'm saying, that there are some great people in this industry, fabulous people. They care. They do. I'm hopeful that you as a consumer, that you'll take the time to really consider some of the things that I'm talking about, get better educated, attend RV ed classes, to accept more responsibility of maintaining things in your RV, and to think before posting some online rant or calling the manufacturer and yelling at them just because you're upset. Well, I didn't walk away with a sponsorship, didn't leave with a nickel of advertising money. I did leave with a whole lot deeper appreciation and respect for the RV industry. And the division managers I met, they were awesome. They really were. In the weeks to come, I'm going to try to be a better conduit, not just between you and me to the RV industry, but between the good folks in the RV industry to you and me, to us, the RVing community. As always, we welcome your comments. Please post them on social media, or better yet, call, leave a message on our 24-hour voicemail. It'll only take you a minute to do. Call 1-330-WINGMAN. That's 1-330-WINGMAN. All right, let's see. We're just getting started, folks. Still ahead, fall RVing tips. One of the slickest RV scams I have ever heard about on our After the Show. And up next, we've got the RV Odd Couple. We love these folks. I'm Alan Warren, the RV Wingman. Back after this.